welcome to another episode of Woman Witness TV, The Stories at the Well. I'm your host, Leah Fortier. Here on this platform, we bring to you voices of women who are out here making a positive difference and making an impact in their lives and the community around them. Today, I have a very special topic and a very special guest. But before I introduce her, I want to read to you a little bit about her. I am thrilled to introduce to you my guest, Dorothy D. Smith. She is a proud Detroit native and she is passionate about community, well being, and her authentic connections drive everything she sets her mind to. Whether it's nourishing genuine relationships or forming cross sector partnerships, her dedication to sparking social change through innovative initiatives is unwavering. In her role as Director of Development at Teen Hype Youth Development Program, Dee is deeply committed to empowering youth with the tools they need to strive in college and careers and beyond. Her impressive track record includes securing over 3 million in funding and shaping Detroit's youth action plan. D uplifts women through sisterhood and collective actions, exploring how to embrace vulnerability can lead to greater empowerment and authenticity in personal and professional lives. As part of her life's mission, Dee connects with people through her unique blend of authenticity and vulnerability. Like the woman at the well, Dee has experienced moments of introspection, growth, transformation. Her willingness to share her raw, genuine experiences showcases her deep connection to resilience, redemption, and unwavering faith through storytelling and shared experiences. By revealing her soul, Dee aims to inspire others to embrace their vulnerabilities and embark on their own self journeys and self discovery and empowerment. Without further ado, I am so excited to introduce to you my special guest, Dorothy D. Smith. Dorothy, welcome to the well.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Dee, when I got your information, I was just taken back, and we spoke a little bit about this because it's not often that I meet people who genuinely have that connection to the Samaritan woman and the woman at the well. So I am so excited to dive into this and get a little bit of insight as to know your story, find out how you ended up at this well. So I'm excited to have you on, and I can't wait to jump in. So introduce who you are first before I jump in.
Thank you so much for such a great introduction. I'm like, oh, that's me. So thank you for that. Hearing your story, hearing some of about who you are from a different perspective is always empowering. So yes, I definitely do work in youth development through an organization, amazing organization called Teen Hype, which I've had the privilege of pretty much growing up with for about 15 years. So I started out on the administrative side, really being a program assistant, and now at a director level. And so a lot of that experience helped to inform a little bit of my other passion work, which is connecting women in the community to their philanthropic power through the organization that I founded in 2013 called the Well Initiative. And it's a women's association that brings women together to be poured into so they can pour into others. And I'm really excited just about how it's evolved. And when I originally was thinking about it, it was originally designed as a blog and just a group of us coming together and doing stuff for the community. Through life journey, it has become something that I believe women really need a space to understand their power and their sense of belonging in their communities. And so that's kind of how all of it
All of it
started.
started.
Yeah.
Wow, you started off with the thought of just it being a blog.
Yeah.
Wow.
And even how that came about was interesting. I was coming back to Michigan after a very interesting relationship.
Okay.
I'll say
Okay.
it like that. A very interesting relationship that tested a lot of my faith, and tested a lot of who I was as a person and my identity.
Mhm.
And coming out of that situation and and leaning into who I wanted to be and trying to find a space where I belonged was hard. A lot of my peers, they had moved on with their life. They're, graduated from college. None of them been married. They're not thinking about marriage. And I have
Yeah.
been married and had
Yeah.
all these different experiences. And I just wanted to feel like I belonged and I longed for that. And so I started a blog to just kind of get that feeling out,
Yeah.
talk about my journey. There are a lot of people who knew me before I'd got into that relationship and got married and went through that whole journey.
Yeah.
And but trying to help people to understand who I am or who I was at that time and what I was looking for and what my journey had brought me to. I was just trying to find space and
Yeah.
ultimately connecting with some other women who felt passionate about community.
Yeah.
We started to think about, okay, well, what could this look like if it wasn't just about us coming together and us doing something? What more could it be? And so there are two very instrumental women. One is named Nikki Hatcher, another woman, Young Cade, who were really instrumental and just supportive, supportive of the vision that was evolving in my head and evolving with what God was giving me. We're like, okay, well, however you want to move on this, we got your back. And that's really how the Well Initiative took off from there.
Okay, I love it so much. Okay, and for any ladies who are listening who may not be completely familiar with the story of the Samaritan woman, the woman at the well, for many of you do know that is where that's what the podcast is built on. And from what I hear you saying, Dee, this is one of the things that really got you going when you left your relationship and then you begin to walk in a new chapter, stepping into an unfamiliar place where you did not feel like you had a space in. And I love the fact that you said that you met some people. And sometimes, I believe that God will show up in different ways, in different forms. He will send people along the way, just as Jesus met the Samaritan woman at the well to help you get your own well going and to birth and create a space for other women.
Yeah, yeah. It's exactly what you said. When I was starting the blog, I was led to really dive into the story of the woman at the well, but not just it from the biblical standpoint, but really understanding what was happening at that time. Why was this
Yeah,
important? I think that sometimes we read the word,
correct.
but understanding the historical importance of what was happening in that moment, her being at that well by herself at that high
That hour.
time of the day was
Yeah.
very, very important for people to understand that from a social context, she was in some respects shunned for her background, then let alone her ethnicity,
Yeah.
and then just being a woman. All those things were what could be considered strikes against her. But then she found our Savior, Jesus, at the well, and was able to find something that really pulled her into what I believe belonging, something bigger than herself and bigger than the story and the narrative that everyone else had about her. And that just really resonated with me.
You know what? That's so good. I'm glad you took a moment. And you're right. If I was to be honest, this is not a no judgment zone. When God brought me to the Samaritan woman, first time He brought me to John 4:6. He sat beside the well, and I wrote books about it. I could not understand why God just kept bringing me back to the Samaritan woman because I'm sorry, I wasn't her. I wasn't her. Like, I didn't want to be her. I was like, no, can I get to be somebody else? I didn't understand it. And it's so interesting. And I love the fact that you are breaking it down for even some people who are listening who may not truly fully understand the story of the Samaritan woman. And, many of us, especially when we are wrapped up in our own identities on who we want to be, who we want to appear to be, we nobody who's I mean, when it may be our reality, right? Like, I mean, I had an issue with it. I really did, D, because I was like, no, I'm together. you know I tried so hard to get away from this Samaritan woman. I really did. And I love the fact that you broke down understanding the time in which we read it in. And if you don't mind, I'm sorry, this is not at all where I was going with it, but I want those listeners who may not really be, who may have looked at the Samaritan woman and been like, that ain't me, because it wasn't me. At least I thought.
When you look at the story on a deeper level, outside of, hey, she got these five people, I don't know, their
Right,
husbands, whoever they are, she got these five
right,
people she messing
right,
with, and it don't
right.
look like who I want to
Don't look
be.
good.
The
Right.
reality is that when we look at our own, what I call our own humanity, the
Yes.
in that journey, in some respects, it resonates with all of us, especially as women. There are
Yeah.
times to where you are not your best self.
Yeah.
There are times to where just because we don't see it on the outside doesn't mean that it hasn't happened on the inside or happened behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And how we show up is impacted by what happened. And so I think about her and think about just what she had to endure from people seeing truly who she was. For me, it
Yeah.
resonated with me because literally I'd gone through a divorce.
Yeah.
I got married early. I gave up a full
Yeah.
ride to University of Michigan. I gone through a
Uh,
divorce. People are looking like, whoa,
right.
what is this? What is
Right.
going
Like
on?
what's wrong with what's going on there?
Yeah. I think that part of my journey, though, those things that
Yeah.
happened drew me to the woman at the well, made me prepared to dive into that story in a different kind of way. Because if I did not have those experiences, I could definitely be like, oh, I know myself. If I
Yeah.
hadn't had those experiences, I was the kid who had, the great grades, like I said, full
Yeah.
ride to University of Michigan. I had all these things,
Yeah.
and life took a turn. And I know how that feels to be looked at by your peers in a different type of way. Not necessarily completely shunned, but I didn't necessarily belong in the same circles like I normally would because our experiences have been so different that there was this lack of relatability sometimes, which was no fault of theirs. It just was the nature of um, what happened. And so for me, it was looking for something that, like I said, for her, what she found, was Christ, was something that was bigger than yourself. And that ultimately is how the Well Initiative Women's Association has evolved. It's evolved into to something from, oh, let's just, do a blog. And then now let's donate to a couple baby showers. And now it's to this thing of like, oh, how do women create spaces to where they can belong? They can show up as their authentic selves. They can get feedback, but then they could also be poured into and allow them to be able to pour what they can into their community and showing
Yeah.
them that they have that ability to do that. Because I believe that things evolve to what they need to be for a community. And so I'm excited to see what the next leg of the Well Initiative will be.
I can only imagine because of what you've already done so far, and I know that it's going to continue to grow. D, I want to go back to something that you said. You said that you created a space for women to go and be their authentic self. Even you said when you went back, you realized that you didn't know how to be your authentic self because that same circle that you were in had changed. And when we think about the woman at the well, when she went to the well, and just to be clear, she went on, and as Dee mentioned before, she went at different times of the day. Where women would go in the morning, she went in the afternoon, so it was extra hot, and she did it to avoid the women. She did it to avoid all the haters, everybody talking about her, everybody knowing her business because they think this of you, they think that of you. But one thing that Jesus did at this well, he encountered that he when he had his encounter with her, is he told her everything that she's ever did. He revealed to her all of her shame, all of her guilt. And if I was to be honest, when I sat in that place of when God was trying to show me that I was that woman, he showed me all the things that I had hidden, all the trauma, all the abuse, everything that I put in the back, that I said I'm no longer that. That no longer resonates with me because I am this person I've created, and I don't need nobody bringing it up because if these women were to find out, they talk about me, they judge me, And then I then would have to live in that shame and that guilt. So I kept it in. And when God showed me that I needed to let it out because he already knew. This has been years. I want everybody to realize this has been years of me trying to forget what happened. But God told me that I need to then take that back. Now, here's the thing. I need everybody to listen. D, here's where I feel that you and I we get the message of the Samaritan woman, because she went back to the town and told people that she met the man that told her everything she did. So all of our pain, all of our guilt, all of our shame that we tried to hide, we now can go back and say, yeah, that's me. That's me.
I think that being a woman of faith, being a
Yeah,
Christian woman, a woman of faith,
yeah,
I think that there's so much power for God to be able to use our authentic selves in this
yeah,
generation. And I'm going to tie it to some of the work that I've witnessed and done through
yeah,
youth development. Young people in this generation. That's when I say young people, I'm talking for teen hype that is between the ages of 12 to 24. That's who we support. And
right.
so having exposure and hearing their stories, and what they're looking for is that authenticity. They're looking to know that, oh, someone went through this. This is not just my experience. It might be unique to from my perspective, but
Right.
I'm not alone in this. Because
Mm,
sometimes when we show up, and now I'm not saying show up and be completely broken and oh my goodness, I
right.
think that there's some work that you should do. There's some,
Right.
that's, prayer, counseling, and things like that to work through that. And those are things
Right.
that I had to do in order to even be prepared constantly,
Mhm.
even in now being prepared as the Well Initiative grows. I'm
Mhm.
constantly seeking wise counsel so that I am better equipped
Yes.
as I come in contact with more people. But I think that
Mhm.
this generation, this era is looking for authenticity. They're looking for the people who are going to be like, yeah, that was my experience. Now I might not be caring, I might not be that person today, but that is a part of my experience, and it's okay. uh,
Right.
you can overcome. And I think that they
Yeah.
need to hear that. But I think that sometimes what people present is the put together, I got all my, I got the bag, I got my social
Yes.
media, my
That
social
ain't
media
me.
on point,
Right.
that's what people see. They don't
Yeah.
see when it was just three people following you, or
Yes.
when I couldn't afford Mac. I had to go, I had to go and get
Come on.
the Wet and Wild, and I still use that Wet and Wild lip
Yes,
gloss.
ma'am.
And so I think that authenticity, people being able to be real, is so important. I think for women,
Yeah.
for us, it is extremely important as we navigate all the nuance of society, and
Yeah.
especially in the United States.
Yeah. I love, and I'm going so far off my top, off my questions. I'm gonna get back to it, I promise. But I love your group of young women, and you said from 12 to 24. I believe
And
you when I hear.
that's through Teen Hype. So that is
Okay.
the organization I do youth development work through. And then the Well Initiative is specifically for women who are 18 and up.
18. Okay, got it. Okay. Okay. And even probably with the women who are 18 up and also the youth, they look for that authenticity because they don't know anything else, D. I mean, I've worked with youth, and I'm gonna tell you something. If you ever want to perfect your craft, go and talk to some young kids, okay? Especially young girls, baby. They will put you right together. No, you didn't say my name wrong, right? And I told you this before. Like, are you writing this down? I promise you. I mean, these girls had me together. Listen, um, but and I do believe that when I tried to show up as somebody else or show up as if I had it all together, it wasn't received well, D. And I realized, and I always think about how Jesus started his ministry with children. He had to, because we already know what they did to him, but he had to already. He had to be able to overcome those difficult questions and
Yeah.
himself. And I think by working with you, so I want to ask you. I want to go. I'm sorry, I got to go into
You
this
did.
youth thing, and it's It's pulling at me because I need for you to tell me when you started working with youth. Do,
Yeah.
do you have children yourself? I didn't
I
ask.
do have an amazing, vivacious 8-year-old daughter.
Oh,
Yes, she's the one who she keeps me together. I went to an
uh,
event, she was like, you need a necklace."
oh, yes.
So I know.
You know, they would get you together. I love it. Okay. How did you end up working with youth?
Yeah.
What was that pull
Mm.
for it?
Before I even ended up with Teen Hype, I
Mhm.
was working in just doing some early childhood education, preschool teaching.
Really? Wow.
And that's a whole nother ball game. Even with the little ones, they're
Yes.
definitely honest.
Yeah,
Just
they are.
like they're like that. I'll point it out in a minute. I felt, but it was, I think I was being prepared for the work that I ended up being drawn into through Teen Hype. So pulling into teenagers, I actually was at a random lunch with my uncle, and one of the co-founders of Teen Hype was there. And I was, this is probably 2009, 2010. I was transitioning out of where I was, out of Ohio, and coming back to Michigan, and just trying to find my footing again. That whole, where do I belong in all this? Everybody's moved
Yeah.
on. Where am I? And I was talking about just the importance of young people having voice, which at the time I didn't know that anything about a teen hype, and the fact that that's what they lean into heavily is youth finding voice in the community. And I was just talking about the importance of that, and how when I was a young person, that if I had space to be able to have voice and to belong, how that may have changed certain things that I did and certain ways that I saw the world. And the co-founder at the time, she listened and she said, "So now that you're coming back to Michigan, what are you trying to do?" And I told her, "Well, I want to either do something on the administrative side, like a program assistant." Know what I was talking about. But program assistant, I didn't know. I knew that, but I didn't know that I was speaking exactly what they had opened. But a program assistant, because I would love to learn the back end and understanding how nonprofits work, or a community organizer, because I love bringing people together around, common cause. And she looked and she said, "Okay, my organization has both of those positions open."
No way.
Yeah, and she's like, "Send me your resume," and I sent her the resume, and I would love to see if my if the CEO over there, Amber, was on the phone, because I always say she didn't like me, but now I know that she's just very, I know she's very very what is it she thinks a lot. And so when she's
Yeah.
thinking, she tends to look up, and you're
Yeah.
thinking that
Gosh,
she's
I
like
do that.
ignoring you or something, but it's really that she's trying to put it all
Get that
together.
back.
And I was young and
Yeah.
just kind of pulled into that space. And I will say that Teen Hype, I credit Teen Hype to a couple of things for me along this journey leading to the Well initiative. One, the importance and what it really means to create spaces for people to belong. Teen Hype does that very intentionally. And it allowed me to know and to grow an understanding of what it really means for people to have space to belong. And ultimately, what I saw is that as Teen Hype was creating these spaces for adult or for young people to grow and to belong, their parents didn't have that. So sometimes the value of understanding the importance of just having that kind of space to explore, to show up and not be your best self, to get a
Yeah.
meal, to activate your voice. They didn't sometimes understand that. And I realized that, oh, that's because they didn't have that. So if you don't know what it means to belong, then how then do you help someone else to be able to be poured into and understand the value in that? And so that's one thing.
Mm.
Other thing that Teen Hype helped me to gain an understanding of is being healing centered. Amber Rhetoric, once again, CEO at Teen Hype, she is a champion for continual growth. And so she started the team down a path of understanding what healing centered means. And so being healing centered, as opposed to just being informed by trauma, it is about acknowledging the trauma, acknowledging the things that happen. So just like we were talking about
Yeah.
from the well perspective, acknowledging this is who I am. And
Right.
this is what it takes to heal. and of
Yeah.
being able to understand what that means. And so I got certified thanks to the work over there at Hype in that type of work and understanding
Right.
that you don't just not acknowledge the things that happened. You
It is
acknowledge it and then you move through healing. And that healing is a journey. I know people like, oh, I'm healed from it. And it's like, I definitely believe in
a journey.
speaking it. But
Yeah.
I also believe in acknowledging those times to where that's triggered by that hurt. And we have to
Yes.
acknowledge that that's where it's coming from. So
Yeah.
that's the journey through Hype.
I love that. I love that. And I love how you said so many great things. And I love the fact that one, you guys are starting with the youth because it does matter. One. Two, I love the revelation that you had in it all. And I promise you, this is something that I continuously say. Yes, it's amazing that when we do these great works for children and but when they go back home, they still go back to the reality of whatever home has to offer. And I love that. And I love how you said you took that and this is what kind of helped you spin into your next season of the Well Initiative. So I want you to talk to us and talk to some of our listeners. You speak about sisterhood and you speak about us coming together. Tell me your thoughts and how you formed this idea and what actions and what steps did you take to placing sisterhood into this new initiative that you put together?
Well, I got hurt in
Mm,
sisterhood, and I think that that's something to acknowledge, the importance,
mm,
the journey and experiencing that hurt, even as I was forming the Well Initiative,
mm,
experiencing that actually allowed for me to be able, I feel like it allowed for God to be able to say, okay, now you understand. So now when
mm,
I bring this next leg to you of understanding the importance of
mm.
being a champion around the power dynamics and around really pushing authenticity, vulnerability, all those things as a core part of the guiding principles of this.
Right,
Now you
right.
understand it because you experienced it. Sometimes people don't understand the value of something because they haven't experienced it. And before then, I hadn't really experienced the level of hurt that I experienced as I was forming the Well Initiative. And so I think that that was a big
Mm.
piece of it is as it evolved. So, like I said, one, it was originally a blog. So I'm just talking to myself and
Right.
people, hey, this is who I am. Hopefully y'all like me. Um, then
Not realizing.
linked up with two friends, shared the idea because at that time I had already had the blog. I had done a website.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing. Like, hey, professional development, something about spiritual, something about community. I don't know. I'm just literally using the website as almost like a
Blueprint.
outline or a
Yes.
brainstorming tool for the Well, not knowing that it would evolve into what it is today. And then bringing some sisters on who are still with me today and having that push of we got your back, but then also pulling and leaning into some people who were sisters at the time who it didn't necessarily work out the best and there was some heartbreak involved and experiencing that and experiencing one of the things about me is that I
Mm.
tend to be a person who kind of wears who you see is D. So
Yes.
I'm D every day, just D. And so I tend to wear my feelings on my sleeve. I can be very open. I believe that there's no new idea under the sun. So I'm very much like, oh, hey, okay, this is what I'm thinking. And, sharing and being extremely vulnerable. But what I learned from that experience, and I needed to experience that, is to help women to understand how to trust that discernment. What I call that,
Mm.
if you grew up in church, it's that still small voice that you get. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
hold on. Let me not just say that. Let me pray about this. Let me think about this. And then let me know how to say it. And
Yeah.
let me know if this person is ready to hear it or is this the right person to be sharing certain things with. And so what I learned, it was a very valuable lesson. And honestly, it worked out, I think, even for that person because they were able to grow and to do they're doing some amazing things and growing into their own journey. But at the time it was not it was not the best. And so understanding that and understanding really what stopped me or what was the real challenge for me, and that something that I had to become aware of, and some of it honestly was from trauma and heal and learn to heal from, is acknowledging that a part of it was my need for validation of what God was telling me. He told me already, this is how the well should be, and this is how it should move. And I was looking for validation of that from others versus just trusting God to move. And so that was a lesson I had to learn. And so a part of the well, even though we're not a religious organization, a part of it is centered in those principles about discernment, about trusting yourself as a woman, trusting that we know what our communities need, and that when we come together, we have the power to enact that. So trusting ourselves so that then we can know how to have the discernment to trust others. And I think that that was something that I had to experience in order to form what it is today.
Oh my gosh, Dee, you said so
I know. I said a lot, right?
but no, that was good. But you gotta allow me to ask some questions and just ask you to expound a little bit on it. You mentioned as far as with the well, you mentioned you got hurt. And I this is a well, this podcast is for women. And I want to thank you for saying that, because I want people to understand that yes, it is possible to get hurt by your sister girl. And it is a real feeling, and it hurts. It no ending any relationship or having any disruption in any relationship is never fun. And it is reality. And sometimes I can only speak for myself. It is hard to move on. It is hard because I mean, I believe and I love what you say, because I can even tell with you, you're a type of person that you want to bring everybody with you. Everybody's got to come, and you need everybody to be on board. And I love the fact that the second part is that you admit that you needed that validation. And some of that, I like to always relate that back to my trauma, because I can relate. I can definitely relate to being in the situation where I too had to have validation. And then I held some of the people that I was with me responsible for not validating me.
Yeah. 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 And that was real. That's real. Like I
That's
had to
very
really
real.
do a self check. Like, you know what? I can't be mad at this person. Like now I can, like there's certain things that I can,
Right.
but on the flip
Right.
side of it, the part that I have to own is that, because of my things that I need to heal from,
Yeah.
it allowed for a space to be created that wasn't healthy for, either
You.
parties involved. And I have to own that part of it too. And that's hard.
That's very hard. Okay. I thank you. I want to thank you for expounding on that, because I do believe that, you know, it's okay for us as women to have that hurt and have that guilt and have that, those type of relationships and have those hurdles, especially when you know what's inside of you and making it work. Okay, let me ask you. I want to move on to your next part about the Well Initiative, because I love what you do. I've been on your website. I've been on your website, and I see your team, and I see the women that you work with. So I want to ask you a little bit about what the Well Initiative offers to the community. What do we have to do to join it, and what can we learn, and what will we take away from it?
Evolving for me, it was coming into this space of philanthropy. So now, outside of the well, of course, Teen Hype, I work as the director of development. And what I saw was there are a lot of women who are doing heart work. What I call, it doesn't matter if you have a nonprofit or if you honestly, especially I would say women of color, Black women, a lot of the work when we form businesses or initiatives, it's driven from the heart. It's driven from what we see as a need in our community, whether or not that is creating healing, whether or not that is a actual tangible item. A lot of it is pulled from that need to pour into our communities. But I saw also the need for women to know how to do that and to also not be told that I have to have tens of thousands of dollars to do that. And so I started to do some research, as I tend to do, and kind of going back, actually bringing it back to the well, to the woman at the well in that time. And so there's power, and there's
Mhm.
safety when you have women together. Thankfully, that woman, the Samaritan
Mm.
woman found Jesus and was able to find a different level of safety. So she found that first pour of herself, like, okay, I need to do some self work.
Mhm.
So she did that first. But we don't really know the full story. When she went back, And as she started to be more honest with her who she was, who knows? We don't know if she went back to the well and she was also going with other women now. We don't know. And so my
Right.
hope, and the optimist in me would hope that she found, through Christ, she found this community of women that she could actually go to the well with and have that safety with. And
Mm.
so for me, it was about, I started to research giving circles and women's giving circles and the power of that type of community building. And so the Well Initiative, as a part of the membership, you learn about that. You learn about the power of bringing together resources in order to enact change that you want to see in your community, whether not that is through supporting a nonprofit or supporting just a woman who is trying to do something good for the community. That's what
Mm.
we do. And so
Mm.
we will take applications, and every year at our annual retreat, our members vote on what type of initiatives we want to support in the upcoming year. And then we have a Girl We Got Your Back fund. It'll be launching soon.
Good.
Sometimes you just need a fill in the gap. So it's not going to, be this thing to where, not, well, I'm not going to say it's not. I'm saying
Come
today
on.
is not
Yes.
necessarily designed to where, oh, we bought your house for you. Maybe it might be one day. But,
Come on.
right now is designed more so like, hey, I need gas money. I need a self-care day. I don't have the resources because I have to pay childcare. I got to make sure I have gas in the car. I just need a day to where I can do a staycation and to just decompress.
Yeah.
So this fund is designed to provide women a respite to be
Mm.
able to recenter themselves. And so those are some of the core ways that membership and support, donating or supporting the Well Initiative, helps to support women in the community. And then we do social events because, of course, in order to connect, you got to have fun. And so one
Yeah.
of the things that we do is we look for women who are already doing things in the community to support their social event. So we do have our own events that are specifically
Mhm.
for members that we
Mhm.
curate, but we also, our open door events are usually connected to another woman's event or activity supporting her,
Yeah.
whether or not that is us sponsoring, being a sponsor on that, or just
Yeah.
helping to spread the word and bring women to her, to what she's doing. One of the big values for me is I believe in collaboration. And what
Yeah.
I saw working in the nonprofit sector was that sometimes we were duplicating efforts versus let me support you and let us grow together. And so the Well very much leans into that.
I love that. D. I love it. Okay, so what I love most about what you said, I like it all. But for my business brain, I I love, okay, when you talk about heartfelt work,
Yeah.
you're right. A lot of us, I can talk about me. We do things from the heart. I promise you, when I started publishing books, my first handful of people, they didn't pay me nothing. And boy, when I looked, I'm like, my God, I got a big heart. But God was preparing me, right?
Mhm.
We don't know how. And being able to tie, and I hear your nonprofit side coming in and how you were able to raise what'd you say, 3 million?
Yeah, yeah. I helped securing that three
Come
million
on,
through
come on.
through through that work. It's
Sometimes
honestly,
our
it's about
heart,
having a team, though. It's about having a team. I think that that's a part of the reason why I designed the Well the way I did was because of understanding the importance that no grant, is very rare where you get a grant or funding that is not tied to a team of people coming together. And those are lessons that I learned through Teen Hype and being a part of a team that helped to secure those type of dollars. And so it's not just D, it is this team of people who are pushing, and that's the way that I'm able to carry that badge of honor, is because I have a great team of people around me.
okay, I like that. I mean, I love that. I love your humbleness too, as well. However, listen, understanding that sometimes, as big of a heart as we have, we if we really want to make that impact and that change, we do have to put our heart and pair it with somebody's mind their experience, their leadership, and perhaps maybe our reach can get be a little bit further, and perhaps that we can begin to grow what was our little seed that was planted in us, and we can be able to impact and affect more lives. So I love that. So yeah, so we got time. I want to talk to you more on that a little later. But okay, Dee, as we draw close and draw near to our interview, I want you to talk to, I want you to leave some of our listeners with some advice to take with them as far as being able to secure their sisterhood and to establish that being of who they are, and knowing that they can walk authentically and vulnerable in themselves. Talk to some of our ladies.
I say do some work. It takes work. It takes work to know yourself first, because I think that in order for you to know who your who your squad, as I call it, my squad, this is my crew, my squad. In order for you to know who they are, you have to know yourself. And you also have to know the spaces that it's not anything against this group. It's just more so that that's not for me. And so in order for you to really know that and understand that sometimes it's not personal, it's really about you, you have to know yourself. And from there, I think that that's when you truly lean into the word that I love, authenticity. Is because in order to truly show up authentic and to be able to build sisterhood, you have to do that work first. And so, if I was to say anything about building sisterhood, it is doing that work to know yourself, so that then you can show up in spaces and know where you belong.
I love that so much. I can take that and run everywhere with it. Um, but if I can comment and just if because I can't run in different ways because I'm gonna keep you past your time. Getting to know yourself. You know, when I was younger. I remember I had this one lady. I worked in the baking industry for a long time, and she used to always say, "Leah, when you find out who you are gonna just rock." And I would get so offended by that comment because I'm like, "Girl, I know who I am. I'm in banking. I'm doing this. I'm doing that." But I didn't know who I was, and in essence, I could have possibly not ruined, but maybe delayed some of the friendships that I could have really made work because I was showing up as somebody I wasn't. So that was good, D. That was really good. And I think if we all were to sit down and sit with ourselves, I think we could all learn something from that. Okay, Dee, thank you so much for coming here to this well. Thank you for telling us about everything that you do. And I kind of went all off my notes, but I really enjoyed our conversation. And it's all about learning and growing and sharing, your experiences. And I think you really came in and you poured here at this well. And I want to thank you so, so much from the bottom of my heart. And I also wanted to let any ladies who are listening, if you love the information that Dee was talking about today, I will leave her information in the description below. Follow her, reach out to her, ask her any questions. If I left out anything, please jump on there and ask her. Put it in the comments because maybe I want to know too. But if you know a lady who could benefit from this conversation or who could benefit from being involved in Dee's Well Initiative, please send this podcast episode to her and follow us. Follow Dee on social media, like and subscribe to this video and to Woman Witness TV. And I want to thank you so much, Dee, for being my special guest today. And I want to thank my listeners for listening. And perhaps, ladies, just perhaps, you were chosen for such a time as this to tell your story, your truth. Until next time, bye.